Hi, I'm Kamon Reynolds, and today I'm just going to show you how we do a little bit of our open, dry pollen sub feeding. I just poured this down here. It's just a deep box with a lid underneath it, and it's windy today, so it's in the shed. Typically, I just stick it outside somewhere, and the bees will probably start hitting this here in the next minute or two. They find this stuff pretty quick. This is Ultra Bee. I really like the product. I've used Feed Bee, Mega Bee, AP, whatever that is from Dadent, and haven't used that as much. I've heard that's pretty good. Bee Pro, several other types, and you know, they all have worked for me. I really like the Ultra Bee because of the price. I get 1,500 pounds at a time, and then on top of that, it's just the bees consume it very quickly, and that is a big deal when you have small hive beetles to fool with. And in the summer months, when our bees are experiencing a big dearth period that goes typically between the second week of June, and if it's a dry year, it'll go almost completely through August as well, and all of July. It's a rough time for young bees, especially new splits, packages. You'll get that package with that nucleus colony, and everything's just going great because you're getting it in the last part of April. Package you might get a little bit earlier than that, and it's our prime time of the year. It's always pretty good here. We have a strong flow early in the spring, but it's very short. You got to be ready for it. And the bees start building up, and everything's just working out for you. And then the next thing you know, the queen looks like she's terrible, like something's wrong. And okay, we got to order a new queen. What's going on here? Because the bees looked good in June, and this is what happens: is the colony. Say you get to double deep size, and I consider that a strong colony. Anything double deep or bigger. So that's what, in my opinion, is a strong colony around here. You can still have very healthy hives that are smaller than that. But so if I've got a double deep colony that's coming out of June, and it's young, it's not a colony that came out of winter as a double deep. It started off as, let's say, a package or nuke, and it's double deep size, and you've really babied it. Looks really darn good. Well, now that pollen dearth hits. If that queen was laying 1,500 eggs a day, and then all of a sudden there's no protein coming in, within a couple generations of bees, they're completely depleted on protein if nothing's coming in, and they don't have the reserves a big colony would have. And so once they get to that point, they will cannibalize all of their larvae. Maybe not all of it, but the majority. If it gets really bad, they will definitely consume all of them to try to do whatever they can to conserve what little protein they have. And it's just a rough situation. Your big colonies over here, you're looking at them and like, man, this one's doing good. You know, the mature colonies that have the whole spring with a huge population of bees, they don't only bring in enough pollen just for the immediate needs. They sock away bee bread, and it's so valuable and so under talked about. Especially in bee books, they don't talk about this cannibalization of the brood. They don't talk about, and these aren't very popular topics, but they're very important to understand what is going on in your beehives. I know so many beekeepers that are new, and they requeen the hive because the brood pattern goes from 0 to 0. I mean, is what happens. You get this queen that's just laying these beautiful brood patterns, and you check them in June, and some new beekeepers aren't good about getting into their hives as often as they should. And let's say you look at 1st of June, man, they look good here. You look in July, oh, it looks okay. It's summer. Honey flow's done. You look towards August, and that colony can look really bad because you've had multiple generations of time where there's not bees being raised. And like I said, that queen could have been laying 1,500 eggs a day. But what you got to realize, once they drop off the face of the earth, well, that's kind of an expression. The earth is round, by the way. I'm sorry to break it to any of you guys. But when they drop off like that, they're still having that attrition rate of about 1,500 dead bees every day, because bees only live about 2 months. So you're losing 1,500 bees a day. And if that queen, she might be laying a bunch, but they're cannibalizing the brood, you could really be only getting 500, maybe 0, if it's really bad, of bees hatching out every day. And you're losing 1,500. A big colony can go down quick. Not to mention, you have viruses, you have varroa that's eating on the protein in the bee's abdomen. They're going back there and they're consuming on that fat body, that fat store, and they're getting in the brood and they're eating on them and consuming their fat stores and protein. So a high mite load with a protein dearth is just devastating. absolutely devastating. People underestimate varroa, and people underestimate the nutrition and don't understand what to look for. And we're going to be showing you that in videos this year, showing you what you need to see in the larvae and in the combs to identify, does this colony have enough protein and foodstuffs coming in to maintain optimal health? And sure, pollen sub and sugar syrup is not going to give you the longest lived bee in comparison to nectar and a variety of pollens. But compared to zero, it's a big difference. It's a huge difference. And I've got to switch hands because this arm's getting tired. Where's that stand when I need it? Oh, there it is over there. All right, so let me get this stand right here. I'm going to take you on a little trip because we got more bee lecturing to do. So this colony of yours, you feed it some protein and you treat your mites. They're going to stay bigger, much bigger than your average colony would. Let me set this up. And that is so important here because when our fall flow hits, that's a little short, and I'm a pretty short guy. When our fall flow hits, that'll work. It is really strong, and some years it can be very short, like it was last year. And you need a large population of forager bees to take advantage of all of that protein and all of those carbs coming in through nectar for your bees to be able to stay warm and stay young. And what I mean by staying young is a bee that has optimal nutrition is going to live a lot longer. I mean, it can be as big as 50% longer. Many people say just a little bit of a dearth period. And the bees gearing back is as much as 25% of a shorter lifespan on a bee that typically only lives about 2 months anyways, and that's an ideal condition. Sometimes they don't even live that long. So this is really important information here. I know it might seem like it's a little boring, but this is the difference between colonies that survive at a high rate and colonies that don't survive. And for those of you who are kind of rolling your eyes at feeding your bees sugar syrup, don't feed your bees sugar syrup, don't feed your bees artificial pollen sub. Hey, I don't really like feeding that either. It's expensive. I grow an organic garden. I want my kids to be as healthy as possible. But I also want my kids to live. And I want my bees to live as well. And I can't make pollen just magically appear. Nature is not always kind. Last year during our fall flow, it was shaping up to be great. And then we got 8 days of straight rain on the goldenrod and wing stem. And man, our big colonies still managed to pack away enough to go through the winter, but all of our young colonies, they had to be fed. If they weren't going to be fed, they were going to die. And that's all there was to it. Now, humans, I think, as beekeepers, we are the best thing that could happen to bees. And a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at this too, but I really think you're wrong. I think you're wrong about the feeding as well. So, there we go. When it comes to the human aspect, we have the greatest potential to do great things and also to do negative things to our bees. Now, we're not going to breed. We're going to teach you how to do that eventually as far as grafting and breeding for a better bee. We breed from our colonies that don't need as much feed, that are more resistant to EFB, that handle better loads of mites and different things like that. That doesn't mean we just let our weak ones die off because they're inferior. That's what nature does, and that's why nature has a pretty high death rate of about 70 to 80% according to research. In our bee yard this year, I'm looking under 10%, and that is very sustainable because I can take those beehives and I can turn them into 3 or 4 in a year. That's extremely sustainable. Now, we put a lot of work into our bees to get that. A lot of research, a lot of artificial feed on those young colonies through our dearth period to make sure that they're strong and have the best chance to take advantage of the natural feed in fall. So sometimes feeding a little bit of the unnatural creates more of the natural later for the colony. So try to think outside the box a little bit. And I also get a little frustrated with people that jump on me with both feet about feeding sugar syrup and feeding pollen sub because it's bad for the bees, it's not natural. Are the first ones usually kiss their cats and kiss their dogs and feed them and pamper them and do all that kind of stuff. I don't really want to hear it. Now, I mean, you can do whatever you want. They're your bees. Go treatment free, do all those things. I think you need to learn how to keep your bees at a high survival rate and do it the most successful way possible. Because that's what the bees are all about. If you're wanting to treat your bees like the bees would treat themselves if they were in your position, It's all about survivability. Survive by any means necessary. If the queen's no good, let's kill her. If the drones aren't needed anymore, let's kill them. If these workers are foreign, or if we don't need all these extra workers going into winter, they're going to fly out of the colony and they're going to die. And what a lot of people see is when they don't feed that protein in summer on those first-year colonies. Second-year colonies, not so bad. But the first-year colonies especially, they abscond late in the year. They have honey left in them, and that's because of high mite loads because they didn't take care of the mites good enough. They waited too late. The protein was down, so the bees are more susceptible to lower levels of mites quicker because the bees are less healthy, and you end up with a colony that has bees that are absconding left and right because the bees are programmed to get themselves out of the hive when they are diseased. When they have viruses, they are trying to get that out of the hive to do whatever they can for the survival of the colony. So this was supposed to be about dry pollen sub, and it kind of is. Again, this will not work, though, if there is any trickle of pollen coming in. If there's nothing coming in, this can be very valuable. I think patties are better. We're going to have a video on how to make some patties. That's a cheap recipe. Works very good. It's what we use by the thousands and thousands of pounds. And I wish we didn't have to feed that much because it's a lot of money. But our bees are healthy, and they go into winter looking good. And we're averaging clusters coming out into February, about 12 to 13 frames of bees. So yes, thank you, Laurel. You were awesome. My wife, she doesn't talk a lot on the videos, but she is as much part of this operation as I am. I'm just the one that won't shut up, and she's the one that does all the deep thought thinking and all that kind of stuff, and taps me on the shoulder after I get done with the video and reminds me to, keep it simple, stupid. Anyways, thanks for watching our video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and please share and subscribe.